Very welcome.
Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, and I, as always, am grateful for you dropping in to listen to another amazing conversation where week after week I have the privilege of getting to know amazing people who have such insights that I know you're really going to value and possibly be inspired and ask if you love this episode, please share it with one other person. The more ears we can get on this resource, the better, and we can elevate the collective. And I do this work because I sincerely care about the C-suite leader of today and tomorrow to navigate challenges with confidence. And today, I'm honored to bring onto the show Brian Petro, who is a marketing professional with 20 years of management experience, digital marketing expert, having successfully supervised millions of dollars in online promotions of all types, developed and mentored marketing teams with a Glassdoor score of 5 out of 5. He's worked for hundreds of brands. He is extremely accomplished, but that's not why I brought him onto the show. He and I can have an amazing conversation that you're going to find valuable. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So it is a pleasure to have him on. We just met each other. We were just, networking, getting to know what each other's value proposition was, and I just found he was so insightful. He's got so many insights about human connection, how to market your value, how to even discover your value. And we are going to go deep into this because I think what he has to share today is so actionable for my listeners, whether you're a C-suite leader or somebody that just wants to have greater impact and do purposeful work. But I want to give you the stage first, Brian, and just share a bit about your backstory. How did you arrive at the work that you're doing now?
Let's see here. When I was 5 years old, I no, I
Fast
honestly
forward.
I did start my sales part of my career really early. I was selling candy bars to the other kids on the school bus. But when I finished college, I was thoroughly entrepreneurial all the way through. So and that was my family's background too. My family, I grew up in a entrepreneurial household with people doing business over the kitchen table. Um, and I got into marketing, and that's really my whole career. I say 20 plus years. It's actually closer to 30 years now. I started at a marketing agency in 95 and helped a whole lot of people, learned a whole lot, made a bunch of money, helped people make a bunch of money, and just really enjoyed it. So that was really that. I grew that agency over about 30 years. I pivoted a couple of years ago and switched to consulting and fractional work, which I'm enjoying, although it comes with its own challenges. And that it was actually a bunch of changes at that same time. A couple of years ago, I moved across the country, moved my whole family from California to East Tennessee, which is wonderful. I love it here. And became an empty nester. My wife and I, all three of our kids are in college, so got to go make some bucks to pay for that. And pivoted on careers as well. So that kind of lands me where I'm at with a really heavy marketing background, having worked for and with a lot of companies, big and small, Chevron, Merck, First Republic, Title, but also lots of little mom and pops you've never heard of, to here with you.
So the reason why, and I appreciate that story, is as a new entrepreneur, I've been in business for 5 years and I'm still trying to find my way. One of the biggest ahas or learnings for me was it's not about what I do technically, while that is important, but understanding my value and how to market myself. Because quite frankly, I could call myself a business consultant. I can call myself a fractional leader. There are hundreds, thousands, millions, maybe, of those kinds of people, but you have to stand out. What is unique about myself? And I constantly tell leaders that I meet, what is distinct about you? What it makes you different that stands out? And that, AKA, is the beginning of marketing to be seen, heard,
Totally.
recognized, and maybe favored.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And honestly, that same discussion is relevant for every brand on the face of the earth. Is like, why should anybody care about you? I mean, that's kind of harsh to say, but it's true. What makes you different? Why are you different than the other 100,000 people? And the truth of the matter is, most brands there really isn't anything different. Most things that are being sold are actually commodities. So that doesn't work to sell things by commodity because it just means you're racing to the bottom by price.
Mm.
So you do have to figure out what can you communicate that actually separates you from the crowd. For me, and this is personally, so it's going to be different for everybody. For me, the fact that I have a really long marketing background, but I totally get and love sales is a different twist because CROs and sales and marketing directors, usually, not always, but usually they're really sales guys and gals. And then they know a little about marketing. That's kind of like the norm. So to have someone who's primarily a marketing guy, but loves and breathes sales, that's different. So if somebody is interested in that, that does really make a difference for me as far as a differentiator.
And what made you all so interesting as I was preparing for today? And again, we were bantering a bit beforehand, just kind of prepping, and you never know where these conversations may go. But I love your headline on LinkedIn. Again, people listening out there, look at your LinkedIn profile and see if it excites you when you look at it. Because if it doesn't, it's not the right headline. But he has here a mind-mannered chief marketing officer, as well as I'm the masked LinkedIn whisperer making networking effortless. Oh my, that is so interesting, distinctive, different. And talk to me. What is a mind-mannered
I
CMO?
honestly, I just changed that a couple of weeks ago. So I'm glad you looked at it now. It was probably more boring a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, the goal with that one was I am CMO, CRO, which you can say that a million different ways. That doesn't really stand out. But I have this side gig I'm playing with. It's a more tactical, a fun project helping with LinkedIn networking. So I'm thinking to myself, how do I present that as a title, which is probably the single most important thing on your LinkedIn profile in an interesting way? So I thought, okay, well, Superman and Clark Kent, the mild-mannered, CMO by day, but by night. And actually, I struggled a little bit with like, I want to do like superhero-ish something about what I'm doing with LinkedIn. And it was what did I land on? It was like the masked LinkedIn
LinkedIn
whisperer or
whisperer.
something. I actually played on Chat GPT to try to come up with something that I liked. I didn't. That's where I am for now. If you check next week, I might change it again.
Yeah.
But yes, it's different.
Okay. And so again, just a lesson to everybody, change your LinkedIn profile if it is not interesting, if it is what everybody else is putting in there. And I know you want to put buzzwords in there that are searchable, SEO. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But gosh darn it, if people have seen your profile, they got 10 seconds, maybe 3 seconds to make an impression about you. You got to stand out. Think of something cute, keep changing it. Use your creative energy to create something that stands out. But I wanna
Yeah,
just
you do have a
yeah,
decent amount of characters in that title, so you can play with it.
and I've been playing around and constantly changing it, but, you know, I love your background, and we had a plan going into this interview, but you know what? I love the creative process, and he just said, "Something's happening in my life right now that I think will be quite interesting to my listeners," and I said, "You know what, Brian? You're right. Let's go there." So something new is happening for you. What's going on?
So, people who work fractionally, they're always hunting. You always have to be looking for that next job, or multiple next jobs. So, that's I do a bunch of networking. That's why we're talking about LinkedIn. But in addition to that, I also I collect recruiters. I have 40 recruiters. I like my recruiters,
That's unique.
but but
Like
honestly,
rocks, like plants, recruiters.
I don't usually actually get projects or gigs through them. That it was actually kind of earlier in my attempt at doing fractional work that I experimented with recruiters. They're wonderful people. I love them to death, but they don't usually have the kind of jobs that I'm looking for. But you plant seeds and you see what grows. And in this particular case, I got a call back from this recruiter that I've been talking to for like a year, and even about the specific job. This job is a marketing position. I'll have to learn more. I think it's a CMO position for a packaging company, and I have
Mm.
plenty of B2B experience. But when the conversation started a year ago, they were like, well, do you know a marketing guy who has experience with, packaging, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, not specifically that. And so they passed. And this was like a year ago. So, but the conversation has continued for the last year. And so yesterday he sent an email. He said, they asked for your resume again. And then I got a call this morning and he said, you have time for a meeting on Monday? And I said, sure. So my brain started moving like, okay, what do we want to learn in this meeting? It's supposed to be only a half hour long, which is not very long. It's just an initial call. This is like the sniff test to see if you're crazy or if it sounds like something. I think it's early on. And I started thinking to myself, what do I want to learn? I've learned a lot from both good relationships and partnerships and even more from the bad ones. So I started jotting down notes about the kind of things that I want to learn about them. And as I was writing that list, that's when it occurred to me, maybe this would be interesting to your audience, and that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, let's go there because a lot of people in my audience that I have an opportunity to meet personally are often at career crossroads and they just do the same old thing. They follow the same old roles and then wonder at the end of the day why maybe they didn't get that final offer. And I think some of your insights might, and even if they get the final offer, sometimes they wind up being disappointed because it's not
Mhm.
the role they expected. So
Right.
you have some thoughts about this that I think to my listeners is going to be very valuable.
Okay, great. So for starters, in the C-suite, CMOs have the shortest lifespan. The lifespan of a CMO is like 18 months on average for a US corporation. It's bad. So why is it so bad? It's usually bad, and I've read articles and talked to people, and I mean, because this is what I do, it's good to know why they fail so often. It usually has to do with mismatched expectations on both sides, and it's that initial conversation that you know maybe the company was in a hurry and their hair was on fire and they needed to get somebody quick, or maybe from the hiring side you were hungry and you don't have enough gigs going on and you needed something quick and so you just took it. So from both sides that is a problem. So my little list here that I have, really it's all about, is it a good fit? And is it a good fit mostly revolves around, can I actually help these people? And it's not necessarily about my skills. It's more about like, is there a situation that fits? Are they in a position where they're consultable? Because there's plenty of times when people need help, but they have a hard time accepting help. Okay, that's the premise. I'm thinking in this conversation, and I will not get through all of these bullet points I have on my little notes over here. So my next step after this call will be to prioritize these and figure out what I want to try to make sure I hit in this first half hour. So I've got 8 items in here, and there's no way I'm going to hit
So
8
this is a
items.
dress rehearsal for this impactful interview
Kind
that
of.
you're going to have on Mondays.
Sure. Oh, it works for me. So it, first off, it's just company detail stuff, because this particular company is privately held and I'm not going to be able to do that much research about them. I'll hit their website and I'll, do some news searches, but there won't be a lot of deep stuff. So like, what's their annual revenue and like how many employees you have and where are you based and what are your big clients and that kind of stuff. I should go into the call doing as much research as I can ahead of time and understand their business as well as I can. But those kind of questions I'm not going to learn on my own probably. Where do they fit in the market, or at least where do they think they fit into the market? Item 2 was, what do they think they actually need done? Now, that is different than what they actually need done, but it's a good place to start. What they think they need done, and looking for pain points. And I think that's going to be very telling to learn about that. Now, kind of in association with that, and I'm long-winded, so jump in at any time here.
I will in a moment.
Great. Associated with that is also, what are the outcomes they're looking for? Like, what does success actually look like? Because if we don't have the same ideas about what success looks like, I had a project recently, great people, liked them, helped them all I could, but in retrospect, what they actually needed was a lot more immediate short-term help. And I was working on long game plans. So we weren't on the same page. I think both are important, but I asked for financials. I didn't get them. And so I never knew what their cash flow was like. Which again,
Mm,
that's a red flag. There's all kinds of different red flags you have to watch for. If you ask for financials and they are not provided, I'm not going to nag you for them. If you don't give them to me, clearly you don't want to give them to me.
yeah.
But that was a red flag. Um,
But if I could just jump in here a little
please.
bit, because there was such strength in some of the things that you said that if I could summarize, and I've coached people on this, by asking for insight, by asking for what do you see as success for this role? What have been the pain points? What do you envision the outcomes for this role? You slow the conversation down. You control the conversation. Because if you got an average recruiter, you're going to say, well, tell me what you did in this role. Tell me what you did. Tell me about yourself. And all it is a regurgitation of your resume if you don't have experience in articulating your value and then substantiated by some of the successes you have. When you start by asking questions, then it becomes a conversation back and forth, and you get them off the resume, and you get to do that prospecting, that interviewing that they think they're interviewing you. So it's kind of a flip in the mindset and a flip in the approach.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And that'll actually be one of the things I need to do before I jump in this call as well. I'm going to do my homework on them, but I need to revisit my resume. My resume is up to date, but it's been a couple months since I've looked at what they're looking at right now. So I need to, and again, as an executive, it's a 3-pager. It's pretty packed. So I need to go through that and make sure I'm familiar with everything that's on there. So that's actually about halfway through this list. Other things I had on my list here was what responsibilities and authorities do they want to give this position?
Mm,
Because those two things go together. And sometimes
yeah.
you can't get the job done with the level of authority that is extended. Sometimes it's kind of self-defined, which can be messy.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's really interesting because perhaps if it is a tightly held, privately owned business, family business,
I
while
think
they
this
may
is
see,
family business.
yeah, while they may need you to be that head of marketing, decision making may be close at breast, and you may think that you're part of the decision making process, but you may find that they work around, they don't engage you, and it's stifling when you realize that you really can't have the impact that you want. So,
Right, right.
good
So if
question.
you can figure that out ahead of time, that's great. And what you're really, to me, again, because I'm a marketing guy, I'm an emotions guy. So what that revolves around, the responsibility and authority, that's really about how fear-driven is the organization.
I don't
Because
get
if it's
that.
a fear-driven
Explain.
organization, I'm
Yeah.
sorry?
Explain that. I don't get that.
If it's a fear-driven organization, then they're going to be very heavy on the responsibility part and very light on the authority part. And it's just a difficult slog uphill when it's a fear-driven organization. I have had the pleasure of working with some really brave, courageous company leaders that are such a pleasure to work with, where you explain to them, your strategy, you show them what the risk is, you tell them this is a test, and these wonderful, courageous people, they're not stupid, they want to box in that risk. But once they've done that, they're like, okay, let's play, let's see what happens, let's see what works. And they're totally fine with failing because you still learn. Fear-driven leaders, they're hard to satisfy, and they're it's tough. And so that's one of the things I'm looking for.
That's an
Um,
interesting red flag because I think when people are in the interview process, they may sense what you're explaining, fear driven, but they, during the process of being blinded by, well, I need this gig, I need this job,
mhm.
and it's probably they've had a bad day. You dismiss it. And being emotional creatures, we sometimes don't listen to what our gut or our heart or our mind is saying. We intellectualize, oh, that's just the way they are. I want to work for this company. And then you get in and you find out that that is the status quo. So it
Yeah,
could be a
no,
terrible situation.
yeah, and again, this principle applies to like all of the business world, and for that matter, personal matters as well. So it's not just like looking for this particular position, I can't tell you how many times over my career where like you see the dollar signs way over there and you see all these red flags and you're like, oh, no, I see the dollar signs. I'm not, those aren't real. And it takes experience to like realize that's not worth it.
Yeah, it's okay to step away from a job opportunity because you can lose some years of your life. Yeah, you might be still struggling a little bit financially, but don't rush to it because, um, no, just don't do it if it
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
feel right.
ultimately, what we want is long-term successful relationships. And I mean, even if you're not there for the whole time, I mean, if this is a fractional gig and it's going to last 6 months, that's still, you want a long-term successful relationship. They're going to refer you down the road. You're going to solve other problems. If something new comes up, they're going to reach out to you. And yeah, so that has to do with setting up the relationship right in the first place, which is what this whole conversation is about. So other things on my list was learning more about the actual team you'll be working with. You know, who are these people? What are their experience? What do they do? What are they good at? What are they not good at? Again, there's only so much you can learn in a conversation. A lot of that you learn once you're there, but whatever you can learn about the team you're actually working with. Um, for me, a topic is how sales and marketing get along, because that is traditionally a point of friction, even though it really shouldn't be. And again, that's kind of one of my specialties because I like doing both of those things. So I can really get those two going in the same direction. But to find out, you know, what's your sales team like? What's your marketing team like? And how do they work together? Is a good question for me because those are the people I'm going to be working with.
So help me to understand because I'm new to sales and marketing for my own business. I've worked with salespeople because often they're close to the customers. Being a
Sure.
quality professional, sometimes I have to quell the issues, but I haven't yet worked a lot with marketing people. I know a lot of CMOs, but not
Mhm.
worked a lot. What is the potential conflict between sales and marketing? Just so I'm aware.
Sure. Sure. Well, the obvious one, the easy one, because there can be a lot of different things going on, but the one that you hear about the most is just like, marketing's giving good leads to sales and sales isn't closing them. Or sales is great at closing when they're any good, but they're giving garbage leads to us. So it's finger pointing and not working together when, I mean, the right way to do it is to have like intimate and often conversations between both ends and ownership on both sides. The sales guys really wanting to input as much as they can on the marketing side because they know that will affect the quality of what they're dealing with, and vice versa. The marketing people, their job is to, you know, strengthen this brand and make the sales guys and gals job as easy as possible. So if you do it right, that all works together. But if you do it wrong, it creates finger pointing. And then there also can be battles over budgets. I mean, there's all kinds of different things there are problems can happen between those two groups.
Yeah, I have a comment about that. Again, if you're in business for yourself, if you're starting a side gig and possibly using a third party to help generate leads, again, your marketing engine, you need to be really close to how they're positioning your value. Because I am constantly spammed by people saying, here's my product, here's my service. Let's set up a call. And they're hoping that out of 100 outreaches, they're going to maybe get 0.1% response and they miss the mark. And that's why I've used that service before and I've been frustrated. Like, I can't get to the point of closing here or meeting with anybody. But I have found when you change your message, you take control of how do I want to be seen? Who do I want to impact? Maybe I should start from just a place of, hello, I want to get
Yeah.
to
You
know
know,
you.
and that goes all the way back to our
Yeah.
original conversation,
Yeah.
which is like, to me, the most powerful thing in both sales and marketing is humanity. It's um, being real, talking from a uh, um, person to person point of view where it's not all about you. You don't have, you're not like trying to weave this intricate web where you can trap this person into buying whatever it is. Um, and dropping the mask. That's the challenge. A lot of people, especially some people that are earlier in their career, they need this professionalism mask that they can wear that I am the master of the universe and I can come fix all your problems. And that gets in the way of a real conversation. And it's not authentic. I mean, if you can actually say, hey, I had troubles with this, then all of a sudden, I mean, again, you don't want me telling people your product's terrible or your service isn't figured out or whatever. But being a human being is huge, 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 huge. I have if you were to pick a superpower of mine, it's the fact that I'm a terrible liar. And I learned that when I was like 6.
It's a
And
good
so,
thing. That's a good thing.
yes, so that's my superpower is that I have no mask. I can't. I talk this way with clients, with staff, with my kids, with my mom, with you. This is just pretty much who I am. And it comes out. People hopefully who are watching this at some point will go, this guy seems real. Because I have no mask.
Marketing question. I am in a gig right now,
Mhm.
always seeking feedback. How can I improve the services
Sure.
and value that I provide? And in those conversations, I have been told, Deb, you need to be more authentic, meaning don't be so prescriptive and prepared. But,
Okay.
but, then I go all out. I say,
Right.
hey, let me tell you a story. And I start by telling a story. I start going into the personal podcaster. Let's have a
Right.
conversation. And eventually I'm going to get through this content. Deb,
Right.
you're a little bit too positive. You need to be just maybe a little bit more direct and concise. Okay, I do that. I deliver the same material, direct and concise, professional, not
Yeah.
scripted. I speak to the talking points, and then I got
Right.
crickets. No
Right.
response, no engagement. So, what say you when you want to be able to position, be yourself, market yourself, and everybody has a different opinion about what you should be?
I wish I had a magic answer for that. I don't have a magic answer. Um I
I'm wondering if I'm in the
suppose,
right place. I'm wondering. Or
well,
I'm just going to keep being me.
you do need to keep being you.
Yeah.
I will tell you there have been times when I've been overcoached and I've been convinced of things about how I present myself that were actually wrong. So I'm thinking right now of a beloved mentor of mine who I love the guy to death, and I've worked with him and for him, and he's worked for me for like 20 years. And he and I have different styles. And there have been times, again, I love him to death. Maybe he'll watch this, so I better be careful. Where he has convinced me of different ways to present that ultimately, well, honestly, the better example, the best example is my dad. My dad's passed away. I love him to death. But growing up, clearly I have a big mouth. And growing up, he reminded me of that very often, very often, and encouraged me to, think more and listen more and talk less. And he's right. He was right. But at the same time, I found out that my mouth is actually uh, pretty big benefit to me in my life. So yeah, don't be overly coached.
Um, I like that. You still have to be yourself. And you know what? I am going to be. Obviously, whenever you have to influence, make a proposal, do a presentation, you need to know your audience. You maybe need to do it in the language or in a way that they understand. Because again, to your point, we need to connect with humans. We need to make an impression. We have to have real conversations. But at the same time, you cannot lose yourself. And if they're not appreciative of it, again, red flag as you navigate, they may not be the right situation for you for the
Right.
long term.
Right, right. And honestly, the two of us right here, this is a good example. You have a more formal style than I do, which is great. And there's nothing wrong with that. You be you, I'll be me. There will be times when people really want and need your style and find mine overly casual and maybe not professional. Um, there will be times when people will go, this guy's a breath of fresh air and she seems a little scripted. And then that's right. Now, in a perfect world, see, now I'm going to put my sales hat on. In a perfect world, we can read the room and we can adjust. Not all of us are perfect at that. I'm not great at that. As I said, I'm kind of stuck in this mode. So I certainly can, I can lean a little one direction or the other. But I find I really click when I just let everything go and just say what I'm going to say.
So, you know, that's interesting. And I know you weren't coaching me right now. I can be Deb. Deb is a little bit more animated than when we are here. Because again, I'm the host. I'm trying to guide a conversation, a
Sure. Yeah,
journey
yeah.
for our listeners. Um, but the real me, talk to my husband. I am a fast talker. I am all over the place. One might say I am ADD, but for podcasting, I slow it down to a concise process so that my listeners have an experience. But back to you. Any other questions or preparation we could help you with?
I'm almost at the end of the list. What else did I have? Okay, sales and marketing work together. So the last two were, um, how's the company doing? You know, is it growing? Is it shrinking? Is it steady? Is it, you know, are they hair on fire? Which actually goes to my last question, which is like, am I walking into a dumpster fire? That's actually the norm for interim C positions. I mean, you usually there is a reason someone they need to fill it. They need to fill it now. There is a dumpster fire that you have to jump in. You are, you know, a agent of change. That's okay, but it's good to know that up front and not figure it out once you get there. And especially again, I am a student and child of family business. I get family business. I really do. But every company has a different type of dysfunction, and there's a special kind of dysfunction in family businesses that I will be aware and watch for.
Such good advice. I'm actually really glad we went in this direction because you were just kind of hitting a lot of pain points of mine. And I will tell you, as the drop in CEO, I'm also a fractional leader. There is usually some urgency that I need to drop in for which my skills are plug and play. I've been there, seen this. I can be boots on the ground and respond. You know, it's not sustainable because if you can't get from out of the chaos into a controlled situation, quite frankly, it's going to wear on me. And there's some fundamental issues. Of course, we try to change that. We try to set a better foundation, have the right people. But in some situations, the owners, the people in charge may not want to change. And then it's time to
Right.
pull us out and say,
Right.
it's been good.
I had an interesting conversation yesterday with a fractional COO, COO who likes doing interim work that he knows he's walking into trouble because he's had a lot of success. And he's had a lot of clients who are really grateful that he was able to come in and help. Frankly, that probably, I mean, I'm happy to always help everybody as much as I possibly can. But if I had to pick my perfect client, it's probably not that one, but
What is
he
it?
loves it.
What is the ideal situation for you? Because again, this is networking. I might know the perfect opportunity, or I've got another recruiter to connect you with. What are
Right,
you looking for in a
right,
perfect
right.
situation?
Um, for I wear a lot of hats. So for the CMO, CRO situation, it'd be somebody who is looking for a generalist because that's what I am. I've worked B2B, B2C, I've worked in every industry thinkable. Um, and someone who they want to form their marketing team. I'm not necessarily from scratch, but guide, mentor, because that's one of my favorite things is to help bring up. I love delegation. There are a lot of people who are terrified or hate delegating things. In the C-suite, we're supposed to be good at this, folks. And I really like that. I love bringing in people who are junior and seeing that spark and helping and letting them do their thing and get the heck out of their way. I love that. Mini story. I had a gal who was wonderful who worked for me, and she was running. This is marketing, so she was running a photo shoot. No, video shoot. It was like a week-long shoot. It was a big deal. It was a lot of money, and she was running the whole show. I wasn't doing anything with it other than like paying bills and keeping an eye on the big picture. And the guys that ran the studio that were doing this thing were not giving her what she wanted. And she came to me about it, and I said, I can fix this if you want. I can go talk to them and I can take care of it. I said, and I've got your back, but if you fix it, it will be way, way, way better. And I said, and I've got your back. So whatever you want to do, you have my full support. And she went and took care of it. And I think it was a really really good experience for her. And that's the kind of stuff I love.
So, shameless plug of you to my audience. If you're out there and you are looking for interim leadership, for an interim mentor, an interim person that's going to guide and lead your and develop your teams, check out Brian Petro. This has been a great conversation. We're going to stay on the line after we're done recording. I've got a few more questions, but I want to give you the floor one last time to really connect with my audience, because hopefully there's somebody out there that would value getting to know you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So, any way for people to get a hold of you, or how can
Well,
people
that's what
get
you
us
were
connected?
asking. Sorry.
Oh, forgive me.
So you can email me. The private email is brian.petro. So it's brian.petro@gmail.com. Or you can also hook up with me on LinkedIn, which is linkedin.com/in/bpetro.
Okay, this was such a great conversation. I'm so pleased that I invited you to drop in on the podcast. It was valuable. Wish you continued success. Good luck with that interview. I'm going to stay in touch with you and find out how that goes. Want
Thank
to
you
wish
so
you.
much, Deb.
All right, you
Appreciate
be
it.
well, Brian. Take care.
Bye now.